Hey, welcome to the CMO Whisper Show. I'm your host, Steve Olensky. Part marketing practitioner, part ad agency veteran, part journalist. I was a writer for Forbes for 10 years. I've had so many insightful conversations over the years with business leaders, to athletes, to celebrities, to, of course, CMOs. The only difference now is instead of sharing those insights through written form, I'm doing it this way. My guest this week is Amina Pasha, CMO of Thrive Market. With more than a decade of experience in CPG marketing and P&G, followed by a pivotal role with The Honest Company, Pasha serves as the safeguard of the mission-driven e-commerce powerhouse, Thrive Market, now celebrating its 10th anniversary this November. Tasked with humanizing the online groceries mission, making healthy and sustainable living easy and affordable for everyone, she is integrating the marketing team to drive a clear story across every member touchpoint and drives her team to focus on acts versus ads. Now, under her watch, the company reached 1 million plus members in 2020, was recognized as the largest grocer to ever receive B Corp certification, and received more than $16 million in healthy groceries for those affected by food inequality. Today, in its 10th year, Thrive Market has more than 1.5 million paid members. Pasha has been listed in Forbes' third annual CMO Next 2021 list as one of the country's top marketing chiefs, recognizing her success in redefining the role of marketing while steering a transformative mission-led business amid a changing world. She's also been recognized by Brain Innovators, Women to Watch For, as well as by Adweek for her notable career moves, and in 2022 spoke at the Forbes CMO Summit about the importance of sustainability in marketing. At Thrive Market, Pasha has revitalized the brand by returning to its core mission, making healthy living accessible and affordable. A University of Pennsylvania graduate, she began her career at P&G and later joined The Honest Company. Outside of Thrive, Pasha mentors female leaders and has lived in, get this, over 13 countries. She now lives in Los Angeles with her family and embraces an active, health-conscious lifestyle. Welcome to the show, Amina Pasha.
Thank you, Steve. So excited to be here and really appreciate that opening. So thank you so much.
It's a very impressive background. A lot of different moves. I'm very interested in, well, a couple of things. One is that you spent some time in my hometown in Philly, because that's where University of Pennsylvania is.
Yes, and I loved it. Philadelphia is very close to my heart. So we spent many years. I jokingly tell my family, I think it was the 4 best years of my life, as they say. And yeah, no, it's been a fantastic part of our life and experience there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great part of town as well, University City. So it's a really great time, great part of the city. But I'm really, the 13 countries, you and I have talked offline a bunch of times, but I didn't know that. I mean, can you rattle off all 13? Not to put you on the spot.
I mean, it's like, I can tell you all the continents, but like I was actually born in Dubai. And so the first, I'd say 1/4 of my life, I'm getting older now, it used to be a third, was spent in the Middle East. So Dubai, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, which was a very interesting place to live. And then my parents started migrating west. So then we lived in Europe, so London, Paris, and then we eventually came to the US. When I worked for P&G, a global company, ended up also relocating myself to Singapore, Europe, all over as well. And it just by the time I was done, it was 13 countries. Greece was another place that we lived, and Portugal. Greece holds a very special place in my heart. I hope to take my kids back there someday. But these are only the countries I've lived in. And then I've probably traveled to almost every other country, largely due to P&G. And I was on several global roles there, whether it was Global Pampers or Global Crest. And so I really got to see the consumer lens from so many different countries. And one of my big insights, I remember when I was on Pampers, was how similar the Chinese and the Russians are in terms of upbringing children and diapers, which you would not expect, but they have a lot of commonalities there, just like Western Europe and the US do. And so we ended up really creating 2 very different marketing and innovation strategies because the parents were just so dissimilar, whether you compared the Western side or China and Russia. And so, yeah, it's fascinating. Learned a lot, traveled a lot. And now I'm the opposite. Yeah, now I'm the opposite. I have 2 boys. And so most of our trips are road trips. So, yeah, it's quite a dissimilar lifestyle now.
It's how our careers take us and where our career take us, right? So it's fascinating.
Absolutely.
So before we jump into the stuff that I want to talk to you about in terms of the kind of the high level initially view of marketing, I want to give you the opportunity, and I want you to tell my listeners about Thrive Market, who may not be familiar with the brand. How do you describe the brand? What would you say the brand stands for? What's the mission? And I really, in your bio, what I was reading was, humanizing the online, the brand's mission. I love that. So those not familiar with the brand, what would you tell us?
Yeah. I mean, the easiest thing to tell you is we are an online, healthy and sustainable grocery store, but there are many facets to our mission. Our mission is all about making healthy and sustainable living easy and affordable for everyone. And each of those words actually has a lot of connotation behind it. I'll start with healthy, because that's the core, I would say, value of our company, but all of those keywords matter. But with healthy, the big insight for Thrive, which is kind of the reason why I joined, is healthy is so personal. It's gotten even more personal today than it was before. And when I look at my own family, what healthy means to my husband, he wants high protein. He was keto at one point, and now he's, still very, very high protein. For me, it's really about low sugar, energy throughout the day. For my kids, it's like just tasty. That's all they care about. But we want them to get high nutritional value. We want them to think more holistically beyond their carbs, of what they're eating. And so that insight led to the creation of Thrive Market. We realized healthy is so personalized, even in the modern parenting nucleus, that when you came on our site, we had these 90 plus unique filters. And in the, just by asking you the right questions, we could really curate the entire website to what your lifestyle preferences and choices were. So if you were gluten-free, allergy-free, just high protein, low sugar, all those things, we could within a second curate that experience and give you the right products at the right time. No retailer could do that. And so that's what led to the inception. Since then, we've evolved even more with smart shopping and AI to really help you put the right products in the cart. Products you may not even thought we carried suddenly becomes this unique discovery moment because we know the quiz and what questions you've answered, and we can use smart AI technology to help you be a smarter shopper. The other one is sustainability, right? I could probably talk for hours, but I'll synthesize that one. One of the key reasons why I joined Thrive was not just what we do, but how we do it. And from the very start of the company, we were zero waste. We made sure all of our fulfillment centers were zero waste. We were carbon neutral. And now we're working on actually removing carbon, from our fulfillment centers, from our supply chain, et cetera. And we never ship the onesies, twosies. We really always make sure, that you are shipping above a certain number of products so that we're thinking about environment. We do no air shipping also, right? But we'll get you your products as quickly as possible within 2 to 3 days. And we think that that patience that we're teaching, not just ourselves, but the next generation is key for a better planet, a better climate positive grocery store like us, right? And so sustainability is key. The other one, which in particular for parents is very challenging, is the easiness, right? We talk about being easy. And today, quite frankly, being healthy and sustainable aren't easy. These are hard things to live and do. And so our entire experience, our entire website, even the way we make decisions, not just in marketing across the company, is like, are we actually making it easy for, health and wellness champions or parents to actually shop on site, find what they're looking for? And so having like the auto ship experience, the smart cart technology I talked about, like we're continually evolving and trying to make the shopping experience easy so that you can do it in one touch click. You can do it while holding your busy toddler and shop at home and not have to make that grocery store trip. So easy is another really big component. And so those are the kind of core, pillars of what it is. And if I summarize who our persona is, we want to be your trusted partner. We genuinely believe there's no right or wrong way to live a healthy lifestyle, but we can be that trusted partner because we know a lot of our members are looking for someone who's done all that research, who knows the quality standards of the industry, has the highest quality standard in the industry, will never let a product, just in for pure margin's sake. We will actually ensure it meets all the rigorous quality standards before we put it in there. And that's another example of making it easy and being that trusted partner. And so that's kind of what we are, but the important part is how we do it. And how we're really trying to revolutionize what a modern, healthy, and sustainable grocery store should be.
Talk to us about, going back to your intro, where it drives your team to focus on acts versus ads.
I mean, everything. I think whether it's internal or external, we always think about actions first we always think about what we're doing before we ask anyone else, members, even thrivers, et cetera, what they're doing. And so when you think about it, it goes back to the inception of the company. And also another reason why I joined is we really were an underdog brand, and we still are in many ways, where we tout our horn less than how much we're actually doing. And oftentimes we don't get all that credit. And for marketing, it's been about how do we get those two to match up? How do we get the credit for what we're actually doing and the action steps we're taking? And so a good example is, although we were zero waste since day one, we didn't do the extra step of getting certified. So we weren't really getting the credit externally, right? And so we took the effort last year to really do the last mile of whatever is needed to actually get certified. And we got all 3 of our fulfillment centers zero waste certified, which was a huge accomplishment. A couple of years ago, same thing. We did not have the B Corp certification, but we saw our members valuing that more. We saw our brands also trying to get that certification. So we really worked hard to push and get our B Corp certification. And, every 3 years it renews. So we're in the process of getting recertified. But this time we said we've got to even exceed last year's goals and get better. And so we also got public benefit, certified, public benefit corporation certified. All of those steps have all led to the same thing. The actions have been always there. And now it's about marketing, doing the storytelling around them. And so the ways we do the storytelling are both on our own channel as well as on, through CRM, through email. And the beauty of our marketing program is that we spend most of our kind of paid dollars bringing in these wellness champion parents. But then after that, we're not really spending a dime. We're really using our ecosystem to communicate and brand build with them. And so we now have 1.5 million members. We're able to communicate to them how we're raising funds for food equality, how we've raised over $16 million, the families that we're helping, the humans, the stories, which really are heartfelt and drive that emotional connection. And in return, we see high loyalty rates as well, because once you have that emotional connection, you start recognizing, wow, when I come to Thrive, it's not just about the healthy products. I'm actually helping this family. And this is the family that I've been kind of paired with. And here are the steps that this family has now taken to live a healthier lifestyle that may not have been affordable pre-Thrive Market. And it's that humanizing that creates a cyclical cycle where those members, start talking about what Thrive's doing and word of mouth grows. And so to date, word of mouth still is a good quarter of how we bring in members. It's the members talking to the other members. So those acts lead, those acts or actions lead to the stories and humans get affected, lead to word of mouth. It becomes this like ongoing flywheel for us in the marketing. And as a return, we're able to continue to scale our marketing program and efforts.
Perfect segue into what I want to talk about next, which is mission marketing, both from a real-time lens, but then how does a brand become mission-driven at scale? But let me start with real-time mission marketing. And I know there's some examples you want to share with the recent hurricane.
Yeah. So that one also just blew my mind with the speed at which we were able to operate. We've always been really alert to okay, if there's any disaster relief that we believe ties to our values, we can actually help. How do we step in, right? And we have a whole process and system. We have a key leader, Kristen, on our team, she just, can galvanize the entire company within a matter of hours. And so the minute we saw what's happening with Hurricane Helen and then also with Milton, we immediately activated what we call one of our mission real-time campaigns to immediately update our website, start putting donate at checkout, talk about who we're helping, talk about why the hurricane is where the funds are going to be released. And what's amazing is that we actually have an army of over 3,000 micro and macro influencers. And as soon as we put these efforts up onto our site, we inform them what we are doing on our donate at checkout. And these influencers just start talking about it, right? And what was amazing to see in this kind of within less than 24 hours, we had influencers talking about the Thrive program. And also not just what we were doing, what the influencers are doing. And they were saying, if you donate, we're going to match back. We're going to add dollars. We're going to add funds. And it started creating a movement for our community to galvanize, towards a common goal. And that's a really exciting moment when you see that happen, because you start seeing that 1 + 1 + 1 = 5 effect, right? And that's really the trickle down effect that we have. And we have such strong relationship with our influencers because they're so values aligned. They're tied to the mission. They're tied to the brand. These are not paid sponsorships per se. These are truly brand evangelists who believe in our mission and our brand, that they just get ignited, right, by what we're doing, and they want to support. And that drives community. Thrive drives mission, Thrive drives, action as well. On the flip side, we also do a lot of real-time parent marketing. I mean, parents are the most seasonally driven. I mean, literally this morning, I forgot to get Halloween snacks for one of my kids. So I had to go and, look at what's in the pantry and quickly, pack it into bags and drop it off at the school. But we are all living these seasonal moments real time. And on the paid membership side, they are constantly thinking about how do we help parents, whether it's like Halloween right now, which is, all about sugar in the US, and you walk through some of these retail stores, it is like just junk after junk after junk and just tons of sugar. How do we tell them that you can have your cake and eat it too? And so all of our ads right now are talking about the 10,000 bad ingredients that there are out there and how Thrive has, truly restricts not just the sugars, but the artificial dyes, all these hormones that are going into these candies and chocolates. And that's another way of real-time marketing, but it's helping the parents just be smarter shoppers, that you can still give healthy chocolates and snack packs. You don't have to give all the riffraff that's out there. And I feel like that's another great way of thinking seasonal relevance, right time on the healthy aspect of our mission.
Without question. And the parents thing I know is something that's very near and dear to your heart. I'm a parent. Any parent would be, I would think, be open to this kind of suggestions, guidance, whatever word you want to call, because I know when my kids were younger, I always wanted to give them the healthiest option. And sometimes it was ignorance in the context of I didn't know what was out there.
Totally. I mean, that's the real problem is parents want to know what's out there, but a lot of the big box retailers either don't carry it, don't have the assortment, or aren't educating, right? And so with us, we only carry it. And so it's about creating awareness of these other brands. And a lot of times these brands are the smaller, less well-known brands. So part of it is, again, now they're relying on our 1.5 million members. But part of our job is to actually promote and recognition of these brands, whether it's like Yum Earth gummies or Simple Milk cookies, which, by the way, they make, these kind of chocolate with the vanilla frosting cookies that my kids love. And yes, they do look like the Oreos, but they're healthier versions, right? So it's thinking through all of these and giving that, those brand names and recognition to the parents, then they also feel empowered and they feel like, okay, I'm shopping so much smarter now that I have found Thrive Market.
Yeah. So clearly the brand is mission driven and you do this at scale. Mm-hmm. That's not easy to do. What would you advise? How do you advise if someone's listening, we do this one off, we do this, charitable thing, but we don't know how to do it at scale. What do you say to that?
I think it first starts off with being really clear what your mission is and what your 5-year vision and strategies. I would say even for us, it's not easy. There are times where we've had to really make, challenging decisions. Like, can we actually reach this goal by 25? Can we actually be the world's, first climate positive grocery store? Do we need more time to get these things right to make it 2030 versus 25, etc.? Food equality is one where we want to raise, 20 million by 2030, right? But we're actually seeing we're going faster. So it's almost like, do we raise the bar again? Because we've already hit $16 million in fundraising to date for food equality. So it's really being strategic about your mission and where do you want to go in the next 5 years. Then it is working on a cross-functional roadmap on how you get there. It is not a marketing show. It is not a single-handed mission person show. It is truly galvanizing an entire company, including your operations, supply chain, fulfillment. And in our case, third-party brands are also involved, which is, we have 300 plus brands who are also, if they're not going to get onto this bandwagon, they're adding to our, climate, goals, right? And so you have to also have these quarterly summits where you're galvanizing them. But when they see the mission and the vision and the roadmap, they actually get excited and they want to either come back and share ideas of how they're getting there, or they want to absorb and learn from how Thrive is getting there. And then suddenly you now have an army of 300 brands who are cross-sharing and exchanging ideas with you, who are looking and giving you feedback on your roadmap, who you're also learning from ideas they have. And you're able to then take that back and spread it across the company. A large part is the executive team has to make this happen. It has to be, I cannot do this alone. Neither can our CEO, Nick Green, do this alone. We need every single executive team to be aligned to that roadmap because each of them has a core role to play. And so we share monthly updates, across the executive team and raise all of the issues and help and support needed to actually get that scaled plan out, right? And so the commitment has to be the entire executive team. And I think sometimes where companies struggle is when you don't have that, complete executive buy-in. you can't scale this type of action, right? And so that's the other piece and advice I would say is like, know where you're going, but then do you have, everybody signed up, whether it's operations, the merch, the product team, et cetera, and not only signed up, knowing what role they need to play and what they need to deliver in the year. And, one of the other ways that we've scaled is like within the operations team, we have 3 fulfillment centers. We have used each one as a learning center to coach the other ones on what they're doing right, whether it's zero waste, carbon neutral, et cetera, all of those things. They are cross-sharing like, okay, we've got these electrification projects going on at Hanover or solar panels. How do we implement this somewhere else, right? And that cross-sharing across those different fulfillment centers helps them to scale faster because they're now learning from each other. So these are some of the ideas of like how you scale, but it all starts with the mission, the roadmap and the executive buy-in. Without that, you just really can't scale.
Yeah. And it's so, not to beat the dead horse, but I've been doing this long enough. You can't have the silos. You can't have one group, half in. It's just not going to work.
It just doesn't work. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And so we actually, the other big insight is we spend a lot of time hiring the right people. It's not just at the executive level. It's like every single level. We have had times where people may actually be more technically qualified, but they weren't mission aligned. They were not mission enthusiastic. They were, and we asked, this is like one of the first questions I ask is like, why do you want to join a company like Thrive Market? Because if you're not into healthy and you're not into sustainable, it requires a very different kind of persona, someone who has to persevere, right? And has to be almost told no 20 times before they're told yes to be in a mission-driven company. We just don't hire those people. Like they're just not going to be able to persevere. So that question of like, why do you want to work at Thrive Market? It's a very strategic question to see if somebody truly, not just mission aligned, mission enthusiastic. Like, are they going to go the mile? And when you have a company which at every level is mission enthusiastic, that's the real difference it makes because they actually want to see this happen. And they give us feedback if we weren't fast enough or we weren't, good enough. Like the Thrivers, our employees, we call them Thrivers. The Thrivers give us feedback when we weren't, on our A game. And so that's where you also learn to course correct when you have a company of mission-driven drivers like that.
Okay. I want to make a little bit of a pivot, not a little bit of pivot to leadership. And I'm really curious, and it's something I ask a lot of leaders who are on my show. How do you define your leadership style?
Yeah, to me, I've kind of been a hybrid. Recently, my boss my manager actually called me a dichotomy of leaders, where I have very, almost polarizing capabilities, which I actually never realized, but I said, oh, that's actually very true about me. And, if I were to sum it up, I think I'm an inspirational leader that just really focuses on impact. And impact, means more than just business results. It means how you get there, right? And every leader, I think, can drive results, but it's how you get those results that make the big difference, right? And especially in a mission-driven company and organization, you have to lead with the head and the heart. There has to be this balancing act. And, it does require you to be empathic, but you've also got to break through the bullshit, right? You've got to be able to push things forward and make things happen. And even when, the entire, let's say, a country is against you, like in the case of us being the first online retailer to get EBT SNAP approved, it's perseverance, it's, empathic leadership, it's connecting the dots, but it's also, being very, very authentic as a leader, and being transparent. I think the biggest unlock for me as a leader has been, and I was inspired by a book I read and I was like, oh, this has been my biggest unlock, is being a multiplier, right? And recognizing in today's world, marketing is like medicine. It is so sophisticated. There are so many fields within marketing. If you're going to try to be an expert in every field, you will probably fail. You just can't, right? And so this is where you need heart specialists, lung specialists. You do need your specialists and experts, but you need to be able to ask them the right questions and lead them in the right way. And this collaborative approach of having these experts, who are basically my partners, I don't even look at them as my direct reports. They're my partners. This multiplying effect cascades across the company, especially when you have multiple execs like this. And so to me, the real nuance has been, hire great people, get out of their way, help them, enable them, be the protagonist to support them, cheer them on. The other big thing is like, we're moving so fast in marketing. So much is evolving, AI, this, that. You have to take time to step back and just recognize and reward. And that has to be an integral part of your culture as well. So while this multiplying effect is happening, we we can all get lost in just like, the chaos of work. We take a lot of time in marketing to take a step back and reward and recognize. Every quarter we do CMO awards, and every year we do what we call our marketing Oscars. We call it our Moscars ceremony. And it's been amazing because we've been doing it remote. Now we're doing hybrid. This year we're going to do full in person. But just bringing the whole community of leaders together to recognize the results, also super key. And I think finding innovative ways to do that, to celebrate and bring the whole team together is also key. So I think those are the kind of, key learnings I've made and what I've learned, over this kind of journey of leading large teams.
Fascinating. Quickly, only because I want to get to some other things, but give me the 3, 4, 5 qualities you think that a great leader has and should have.
I mean, the first one is clarity and vision. If the leader does not know fundamentally where we're going, who we need to win with, why that's important, what the mission is, etc., nothing else matters. So clarity in vision, the ability to think big. I think that's where true, especially at like the executive CMO level, if we're not thinking big, how can we expect our teams to think big? The other one is like, we call it being member-centric because we're a member-based company, but I think it's both being consumer-centric and also being people-centric. You're a people leader. You've got to understand your people and your customer as well. And people come in shades of gray. What motivates A doesn't motivate B. And so really having a deep understanding of your team, your cultural nuances, what drives them, what motivates them, etc., will also help you see, where are their knowledge gaps? Where are the capability gaps, etc. So being people-centric, but also being really understanding your consumer, not at the superficial level, but on a one-to-one basis. And this is why we do a lot of polls on top of the quant. There's so much data, but the data never will tell you why. The data will tell you what. So being able to balance that. And that leads to my next quality is like, marketing is an intuition and data-based, it's an art and a science. It is not one or the other. And I think as leaders, you have to be able to see both, and so there are times where I actually override data because I'm like, this data point is not going to scale. And we've seen this happen over and over again. You cannot be just myopic with data. This is where judgment comes in as well. Like this test will not scale. Here's why, right? And like, go and prove me wrong. Go and test it, but prove me wrong or prove me right, right? So being open about that and being able to balance those two. I've seen a lot of leaders where it's either just too much data or too much judgment. You've got to be able to balance those two, and so thinking big, member people centric, having that vision, being both data and, judgment. And last but not least, there are going to be tough calls you're going to have to make. There are going to be some times where you're going to have to make some people decisions. You're going to have to make some org decisions. You're going to have to change things up, which we're always doing at marketing. And I've told my team, like, we're an agile, dynamic marketing team. We cannot be stagnant, but you've got to do it with heart. You've got to think about, and, there are times where we've messed up. I've messed up. I've done it the wrong way. And I was like, I learned something from this. Like this, we have to take it with heart. We're dealing with people's lives. We're dealing, people have families, they have priorities. And so finding that way to connect with them from a heart way that they almost expected coming. To me, a failure from a leader is when somebody is surprised about something you either did or changed in strategy or an impact in their career. No one should be surprised if we are communicating in the right way, transparently and authentically. They should be along the journey. And we owe them that. This day of like sending someone an email, like your job has gone or whatever, that's just ridiculous to me. Like we really have to lead authentically with leaders and they need context and time to accept things or changes. And so I think it's that, that leading again with the heart and the mind. I think that's, again, it's these dichotomies, balancing these 3-4 dichotomies are what makes a great leader.
So before we move on, I have to call out something you just said, and it's so refreshing. And I can already hear a lot of people calling it marketing heresy. And it's when you said sometimes you override the data, right? And that human side comes in. And I can just imagine so many marketers going, "Oh my God, she's crazy. You can't. The data never lies. Yada yada yada." How refreshing it was for me to hear you say that. I already had massive respect for you. It just went up even more because far too often, I think marketers now, especially with the advent of Gen AI, we're getting too far now the other way and too reliant. And the data, the AI, right? So I just wanted to call that out to massive respect for you for saying that.
Yeah, and I'll build on that. I'll give an analogy, which I've shared with my team also, to help them think through these things, right? So my husband, I remember, got dengue and was sick. And it was a very, near fatal hospital incident. He recovered. He was fine. Several years later, we were in Singapore and he got sick again. So the doctor recommends he gets the test. He gets the test and the test comes out again positive, and he starts freaking out. Like, I have dengue the second time. The second time will kill me. It's like game over, etc. We go to see the top specialist there, and when we meet him, he takes one look at him and he says, "You do not have dengue. This is a false positive," right? And why? Let me give you 3 reasons why. You look healthy, you're walking, you have no symptoms reduction, no platelets reduction. This may be just a lingering test result that has happened, right? And we walked out and my husband was totally fine in the next few days, right? But this is a great example of, if we went by the data, we would have totally overreacted. We would have started inducing all kinds of medications in him, completely having this, unnecessary reaction. And we would have, stepped back and been like, oh my God, we are just complete idiots. He never had dengue, right? And it's the same thing with your business. We ran a test on trials, which was the most heated debate we've had. And it was a good one because it taught us a lot of these principles. And it looked like a plus 10% conversion win. But I said, this is not going to be a conversion win. And here are all the reasons why. But he still said, let's run the test and see what happens. And lo and behold, when we opened up the test, we saw very mixed results and actually deteriorating results for one of our biggest channels on Meta. And it affected the algorithm and there were a lot of complications. And we also saw we were getting members in, we weren't getting the right members in. They weren't ordering. And so we eventually pulled that back. But here was one where, again, got to be able to see through the data. You got to see what the data is telling you, but also what the data is not. And the context, the landscape, what's evolving, what's changing, does it fit with the strategy? Otherwise, we can all be data scientists in marketing. That's actually not the hard part of the job. That's the easy part of the job. The hard part is rounding it out with all the context and the strategic thinking, which is why we hire great marketers to really figure out what to do with that data. So I hope that adds more color. And it's not that I'm not database. I actually am very database, but we have to have both sides of the coin.
Oh, absolutely. As am I. I mean, it's the right side, left side brain. It's an art and a science. I mean, you said it all. It was perfect.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to call that out. Okay. The last thing we're going to do, and this is to get to know you better as a person. And I called the Random 5. And I had this huge database of random podcast questions. And I literally, for each interview, I just pull up 5 random questions and I ask. So here we go. What superpower do you wish you had?
This is a really good one. The ability to predict better. I mean, I do believe if marketers could predict better, we would just be so much better at our game. So yeah, the ability to predict.
Okay. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, living or dead, who is it and why?
If I could have dinner with any living figure, it would probably be, I know this is going to sound really corny, but Odysseus. So I'm a huge classical studies Homer fan. And that story I've read probably 7 times when I was in college and growing up. And my son is now getting into mythology. But I would love to have met either Homer or Odysseus because that story of adventure has been one of the most engaging of my life.
Okay. What's your morning routine look like? Do you check your social feed? Do you check news, email? None of the above. What do you do when you first get up?
That's a real insight. So I am a mom of 2 boys, so 7 and 2.5-year-olds. So my morning is none of that. It starts off with 2 boys entering into my bed and morning cuddles. And a very important decision is made during that moment. What are we going to eat today? And
this
that
is like,
debate,
this is big.
Debate can go on for 10 minutes. So we had, we had pumpkin waffles, compliments of Thrive Market this morning, gluten-free and with Thrive pumpkin, fresh, which was amazing to have. But yeah, that is our morning routine. And then getting them ready and out the door for school. I also go to the gym every single morning. So I actually work from my health club. Because we're completely remote first. And so I start every single morning, even on the weekends with a workout.
Amazing. You're going to inspire me in a lot of it.
Yeah. So before I hit technology, I hit my health goals. And I have found that, shifts that makes you so much more productive.
Yeah. You get your heart rate going.
You get your heart rate going. My son does it too now. So he goes for run club 4 of the 5 days. So I have to drop him off to run club before I hit my class. And his brain is just like on then by the time he starts school. And the same thing with me. It's like I've noticed I'm so much more alert, productive, and make better decisions than when I used to work at the end of the day when I'm actually low energy. And so that's been I think the biggest, I would say health change I've made in the past 2 years is really just giving you that morning routine of start physical before you start mental. And I think that's like a really big strategic shift.
I love that.
For most people.
I absolutely start physical before you start. I love that. Okay. Earlier you mentioned a book. And my question is now, is there a book, movie, or even a song that has deeply influenced you?
Book, movie, or a song. I mean, the book that has deeply influenced me most recently is The Multipliers. That book just blew me away because, I think if you haven't read it, it's by Liz Wiseman, and it talks a lot about different leadership styles, both the diminishers and the multipliers. And I think even the multipliers have diminishing habits, right? But if you learn what those diminishing habits are, you can constrain yourself better and go back to like asking the questions. And believe it or not, the diminishing multiplier effect has helped me in my personal life more than I would say my career. I think in my career, I was able to crack it much faster. But with my children, I sometimes really struggle to get them to listen. And I recognized that I was actually telling them what to do rather than asking them what to do. And so now, especially with my 2.5-year-old, all I do is like just say, what time is it? A child who does not know time will answer, from the age of 2, exactly what time it is. And you'll be like, it's time to shower. It's time to go to bed. It's time to read a story. And I don't need to tell him what to do. So this was a huge eye-opening. Even at work, we all do that. We tend to go and, tell people what to do without realizing we're doing it. Ask them, what do you think we should do? Flip the question, and that's the biggest insight of being a multiplier is just finding the right questions to ask. And 90% of the time, and myself included, leaders are not asking the right questions because that's really an art again. Like,
oh my God, yes.
It's so much like I go back to a little trial example. We were all asking them, how do we make this work? Rather than, hey, what are we actually trying to do with this, right? And once we layered in the objective, we were like, wait a minute, if we're trying to do the objective A, there could be other ways to get there. And that was a much more strategic question to ask of us from an executive team, right? So it goes back to like, when we think about these nuances, like, are you actually asking the right question as an executive or as a leader? Or are you, basically in some subdued way telling them what to do? And this has to change, in this kind of modern world and modern marketing, because when you ask the right questions, you're going to get so much richer conversation, so much richer answers, and you're going to have a much healthier debate. And the debate shouldn't go away. The debate should be healthy, but it shouldn't have that friction because now we're asking the right questions. We're not telling them what to do. So that, to me, that book has really been a big unlock.
I love it. And I'm going to order it ASAP because you sold it.
Yeah, you should. It's a fun one. Yeah.
So, last question. Who has been the most influential person in your life and what did you learn from them?
I mean, honestly, the most influential people have been my parents. My father, who sadly passed away, was in many ways my North Star, but both my parents, my mom, who's still alive, has been a very big role model for me. Both of them have shaped who I am. And last night, my husband was actually asking me this question of like, how are you so balanced? Because you meet so many different personalities in life. And I was like, really, am I balanced? He's like, yeah. He's like, you're like such a hybrid blend of your parents. You kind of got their best parts. I'm like, are you insulting my parents at the same time of complimenting me? He has a unique way of doing that. But it is true. I've actually been able to get the best out of both my parents. My mom was one of the first female chartered accountants in Pakistan. So imagine living in, third world country, being a female with only male role models in a career, and has had just an accelerated career throughout her entire life. And even now at 76 plus is like a board member, is leading an NGO of, female leaders, chartered accountants in Pakistan, building a school for impoverished children. Like, it's just so many aspects so accomplished. But both my parents, have played that influential role. And I owe a lot to them for who I am and what I have learned in terms of values and upbringing of my own children, right? And so that's been, kind of the legacy is like what you leave behind, and how you kind of learn to be the best parent you possibly can for your kids too. So, yeah.
Amazing. I love it. Amina Pasha, CMO of Thrive Market. I can't thank you enough. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, I want to do a part 2 because I think you're brilliant. And I think there's a lot of topics we haven't even touched on. So,
I could talk endlessly. So there's, we talked a lot about the work thing, but we didn't talk a lot about like work-life integration, which I really do feel like, the one thing we all don't talk about is having fun, and how important that is, I literally, I'm celebrating my husband's, I call him the half 90 birthday. And I think, the little piece I'll end on is like, the first 4.5 decades of your life, it's so much like, a seed, a tree. we are spending extracting, we are getting our career, we're getting, married, we're just taking, from life. And I suddenly had this epiphany when I lost my father that the second half has to be about giving. It has to be about giving back, giving through my career, giving my personal time, whether it's to my kids, to my family, to people who are struggling, who are not having it that easy. And this is a big transformation. Like I feel like I realized it too late. A lot of people have realized it much earlier. But this tree now has grown and is now providing shade to others. Like, are we giving back? And at the same time, like, life should be fun. If you're not having fun in marketing, or you're in a job or career where it's just not engaging you, like, this is the time to wake up and change, right? You're not going to have that endless gift of time. And so that's the kind of thought I will end on, is like, we spend half our life taking, building, extracting. And then this other half, we need to really, as leaders now, focus on what are we giving back? What are we doing? Whether it's back to the planet, whether it's to the kids, think about what we can give back. And I think that makes a much more interesting and enriching life experience. So that's my closing thought.
I love it. Thank you. I could not possibly top that. Thank you again for your time.
You're so welcome. And I also have to thank you because you're the first one who's like not giving me any questions completely. This is like, it just feels like such an intimate coffee chat with you, Steve. So thanks for breaking the mold and making it interesting.
That is one of the best compliments I've ever received. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the CMO Whisperer Show. I hope you shared this episode with your friends. And if you have not already, please subscribe to be kept up to date on all the latest episodes. And if you're so inclined, leave me a review on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you.